Welcome back. As we get geared up for the Woodward Dream Cruise, classic car collections come to mind. And if you're wanting your car to become a family heirloom, how do you protect your prized possession after you pass? Well, joining us this afternoon is our legal expert, Danielle Mayores, with tips for car collectors. Thank you so much for being here, Danielle.
Thank you for having me, Lauren.
All right, so let's get right into it. What are some things to keep in mind and consider if you want to pass down something like a classic car?
There's so many different ways to do it. A lot of people don't realize there's not just one way to pass on a car, especially a collectible car. So you want to consider, of course, who you're giving it to, the value of the car, creditor and liability issues come into play, and also family dynamics, because we want to try and reduce family fighting. But when it comes to classic or collectible cars, sometimes there's more fighting that goes on because everyone wants it.
Right, and so if you are kind of proactive about it, how do you ensure that you don't get to that point where you have your family bickering over who gets what?
I wish I had the magic answer. I wish that would be golden. I think there's a few things to take into account, and there's a few different ways to do it. One is joint ownership. It's adding someone else's name to the title of the car. But the issue with that is if you want to sell your car at a later date, that joint owner needs to sign off on that. And on occasion, we see that person holding the original owner hostage. Yeah. Never good. Yeah. You can also go to the Secretary of State's office and file a next of kin form, or your family can after you pass away. And that's great if you want your surviving spouse to receive your car and you are married at the time. But if you don't have a surviving spouse, that might mean that multiple family members have to sign off on those forms, and that can also lead to a lot of fighting, and we don't want that.
Yeah, we don't. All right, and speaking of those forms, let's talk about title transfer. How does that process work?
It really depends on which way you want to do it. So joint ownership and the next of kin, both of those options do transfer title, but we also have transfer of title through the probate court system if someone wants to go through that process, which a lot of people don't because it's public and time consuming. And then you can also use a trust and actually transfer title into the name of your trust. But even though I love trust, that can be an issue with cars because it does increase creditor exposure and can increase liability as well.
Okay, so let's get into that. The pros and cons of passing down a car as opposed to just selling it.
Well, either way, what's interesting is even if you want to sell that car, you still have to transfer title. So in order for the trustee, executor, or someone to sell it, you still need to do one of those 4 steps that we talked about. But when it does come to selling cars, you know, it's a really interesting thing because when we're talking about collectibles, like what hopefully we'll see at the Dream Cruise this weekend, it's a smaller marketplace. There's not as many buyers for that. And so you really have to think about not only like who are you going to sell this to, but also sometimes there are valuation questions. So it's a really unique market that you need your family members to think about, and maybe if you're a car collector, talk to them about that ahead of time.
So what are some issues you've seen with this process at your law firm? I know you alluded to it a little bit.
There's been a lot, but a couple that come to mind just deal with the valuation issue. I had done estate planning for a client years ago, and when the trustee went to administer her estate, I got a phone call because under a tarp in the garage was a car from the 1920s.
Wow.
Perfect condition. And then the question became, how do we sell this car? It's not like everyone, you know, around here wants to buy a vintage car.
Right.
So fortunately, Sotheby's wanted to auction it off, and that brought about $26,000 into the estate. We had another issue where there was a Jeep from World War II, which was a collectible. The problem was, even though it was museum quality, it wasn't running. So these are the type of issues that you want to think about ahead of time if you're a car collector. Talk to your attorney, talk to your family members, and make sure to weigh the pros and cons because it really does depend on your unique situation.
All right, Danielle, so much good information given today. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, Lauren.